Jake Morrison gazed out through the reinforced glass at the alien vessels drifting beyond Station Omega. Their designs were flawless and elegant, nothing like the crude metal frames humans once built on Earth. 3 long years had gone by since humanity's first encounter with these outsiders, and relations had hardly improved. The mighty alien alliance called itself the Galactic Confederation, and they wasted no chance to remind humans they were unwanted. The insectoid Zathari branded them violent and unreliable. The crystalline Lugari mocked human engineering as primitive. The aquatic Nal treated humans as amusing pets that had somehow mastered starflight. Jake served as captain of the tiny human contingent aboard the station. With only 30 of his people there, the role felt small, yet someone had to speak for Earth when decisions about their future were being made. Across the room, Amy Patterson sat at her desk, scanning incoming transmissions on her terminal. Young but capable, she managed communications with Earth and the alien powers, and Jake relied on her skill. Fatigue lined her face as she finished, reading the latest dispatch from the Confederation Council. "Captain Morrison," she called, "they've repeated their stance. The Council refuses to grant us access to their ship schematics. They still think we're too reckless and unfit to build real starships." Jake's hands tightened into fists. This was the 5th refusal. Instead of real support, the aliens only offered what they called aid, but it was nothing more than discarded junk they no longer wanted. "What excuse did they use this time?" Jake asked, his voice forced calm. Amy read aloud. "They claim humans lack both the technology and the cultural discipline to operate advanced vessels responsibly. They'll be sending us another load of outdated mining equipment instead." It was a familiar insult. Every few months, a lumbering freighter would arrive hauling crates of broken gear, obsolete weapons, centuries-old scrap plating, and energy cores already abandoned by species with better inventions. Lisa Carter lifted her head from the reports she had been analyzing on the newest junk shipment. She was the most gifted human Jake knew with alien systems, despite never having formal training. "Jake," Lisa said, "there might be value. Here, these power units are ancient, but designed to last far longer than the modern ones. And some metal plates come off warships." Jake moved closer to inspect. "Warships?" "Yes, old Zathari cruisers. Their hull alloy is still nearly indestructible, even if the bugs dismiss it as useless." Pete Davis leaned back in his chair, boots propped up, eyes thoughtful. Chief engineer for the group, he had spent a lifetime repairing the impossible. Back on Earth, he'd worked on the first human starcraft when funding was scarce and everything came from scraps. "You know what, Captain?" Pete said with a slow grin. "I think we've been looking at this all wrong. We keep trying to copy the aliens. Maybe we should build the human way instead." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Pete's grin widened, the same expression he wore when solving the unsolvable. "I mean, we take their junk and rebuild it into something better than it ever was. That's what we have that they don't." "And what's that?" "We know how to be desperate. We know how to make things work when no one thinks they can. We know how to win when everyone expects us to fail." Jake let the thought sink in. For 3 years, alien freighters had dumped thousands of tons of obsolete hardware into storage bays. Humans had ignored most of it, calling it worthless. But what if Pete was right? What if they'd been using it wrong all along? Lisa was already pulling up new data. "Pete's onto something. Look here, the old Zathari fusion cores push far beyond the limits the aliens use them for. And these so-called mining lasers? They're powerful enough to be weapons." Amy stepped away from her console to join them. "Aliens believe their newer designs are always superior. But maybe the old systems aren't weaker, just different." Pete stood and walked to the viewport where alien ships shimmered. "Those beauties out there are crafted for species that live centuries and hate risk. Every component must be flawless because they won't accept failure. But humans?" Jake's eyes narrowed as he caught on. "We're different." "Exactly," Pete said. "We fix things. We push broken tools until they shine again. We take junk and turn it into treasure." Lisa's excitement grew, her fingers flying over keys as she compared data. "We could hybridize technologies they'd never dare to combine. Stari armor with null propulsion, Lugari controls. The Confederation forbids mixing tech across species." "They call it unsafe," Amy reminded. Pete chuckled. "Naturally. But humans have always combined ideas. From fire onward. We fuse the best of everything into something new." Jake felt a surge he had not known in months. Hope. For years, humanity had begged for scraps, trying to blend into a galaxy that scorned them. But what if they stopped imitating and embraced being human? "How long would it take?" Jake asked. "To build what?" Pete replied. "A ship. A true human ship, built from the junk they keep handing us." Pete glanced at Lisa and Amy, then back at Jake. "Give me 20 skilled engineers and 6 months. Open the storage bays, throw out their rules, and let us build our way." "You really think it can work?" Jake pressed. Pete's grin sharpened. "Captain, I think we'll build something that terrifies every alien in this galaxy. They think their trash is worthless, but it's never been in human hands before." Jake made the call. "Do it. Take what you need. Build the ship that proves what humans can do." As Pete and Lisa mapped blueprints and Amy prepared the endless requests, Jake turned once more to the alien fleet outside. Soon there would be a human vessel among them, unlike anything the stars had ever witnessed. 6 months later, Bay 94 of Station Omega looked nothing like the pristine docks of other species. Where aliens valued order, humans thrived in controlled chaos that somehow produced results. Sparks cascaded from welding torches as crews fused alien alloys. The air rang, with cutters biting into exotic metals. Teams of engineers clambered across the framework of a rising giant. The framework rising in Bay 94 looked unlike any vessel in the galaxy. Pete Davis stood proudly beside a massive energy assembly his crew had spent months refining. No alien had ever attempted such a thing. It joined 3 separate cores into one system instead of relying on a single unit. Confederation engineers called the design reckless and unsafe, yet the humans had forced it to function. "Amy, what are our readings?" Pete called to Lieutenant Patterson, who manned a control hub patched together from salvaged components and human ingenuity. She studied the display, then smiled. "Output is running 40% higher than the alien schematics ever projected, and the triple-core matrix is steadier than their single-core models." Dr. Lisa Carter had been busy modifying what records officially labeled mining tools, though all of them knew better. The Confederation's ban on arming humans meant no direct weapons transfers, but asteroid equipment was unrestricted. "Primary mining laser system prepped for testing," Lisa reported evenly. "We spliced 6 old null extraction beams into a combined array. Formally, it's for ore processing." Jake Morrison moved in to examine their handiwork. The original emitters had been designed for gentle mineral cutting, but human adjustments had turned them into a focused cannon capable of burning through armor plating. "And the secondary tools?" Jake asked. Lisa kept her tone clinical. "Luxury cargo lifters have been reworked into rapid deployment systems. Officially, they're for moving bulk material. In truth, the rigs now fired human projectiles at incredible velocities. The documents listed them only as geological probes. From the engines section, Dan Murphy strode in smeared with oil, his grin wide. "Captain, you have to see what we pulled off with propulsion. It's beautiful." The drive chamber was proof of what persistence could achieve. The crew had grafted discarded alien gravity modulators to old-fashioned chemical rockets, producing a hybrid thruster with astonishing power and efficiency. "How astonishing," Jake pressed. Dan's grin widened. "Performance equal to the Confederation's newest warships, yet double their range. They keep upgrading, but scrap systems they've barely tapped. Around them, the vessels hull was steadily enclosing its skeleton, and its form was like nothing in known space. Where alien ships were sleek and flowing, the human design was sharp-edged and intimidating. Where Confederation craft relied on shimmering shields and precision maneuvers, the humans were layering armor on armor from salvaged plates. Lisa, who had spent weeks analyzing alloys, sounded proud. We've stacked hull plating from 12 alien designs into a layered matrix. It spreads impacts far better than any single-race material. By how much? Jake asked. Test slabs withstood. Triple the punishment of standard Confederation armor before collapse. And if a section fails, modular construction makes replacement simple. Pete, wiping grease from his hands, regarded their progress with deep pride. The vessel embodied his vision, blending the finest alien traits with human methods. Aliens, design like perfectionists, he explained. Every component cutting-edge, flawless, locked to one purpose. But that's not us. Jake nodded slowly. Exactly. We build things meant to bend, to adapt, to recover. We build machines that still function when broken. We make them stronger with time. Amy, monitoring open channels, had noticed a shift. Captain, word's spreading. Other species are starting to notice our work, and some don't like it. What's making them uneasy? Jake asked. They don't understand what we're creating. The Zthari keep prying about the core system. The Luxari question our reliance on obsolete machinery. And the Null? They're baffled that it's even holding together. Lisa glanced up from calibrating the weapon arrays. Let them be uneasy. For 3 years they've told us we were too primitive to grasp true technology. Now they're watching what happens when so-called primitives turn their cast-offs into something stronger. Dan Murphy, bent over the propulsion readouts, chimed in with a grin. The irony is our vessel will outclass theirs where it matters. Reliability, adaptability, and battlefield effectiveness. Combat? Jake repeated, brows furrowing. Are we actually building a warship? Pete paused, considering. We're building a human ship. If someone chooses to fight us, it will be a warship. If someone needs freight moved, it'll be a hauler. If someone calls for mining support, it becomes industrial. How can it be all of that? Jake pressed. Because it's built the human way, Pete replied. Modular, versatile, rugged. Alien craft are specialists. One role, no more. Ours can be whatever role survival demands. The vessel was nearly finished, and one question remained. Its name. Jake had wrestled with it for weeks, searching for words worthy of humanity's first true galactic-class creation. What do we call her? Amy asked. Jake's eyes lingered on the ship forged from alien refuse, a monument to human resolve and ingenuity. It embodied everything that set his people apart. Given scraps, they had shaped strength. The Defiant, Jake declared, because that's what we are. The name resonated instantly. This vessel stood as humanity's defiance against a galaxy that dismissed them, proof that humans could turn obstacles into weapons of survival. And soon, the Defiant would face its first trial. That trial came on an ordinary Tuesday when Captain Rex Veron and his alien raiders marked Omega's human quarter as easy prey. Pirate bands had stalked trade lanes for months while Confederation patrols responded with red tape and delay. Jake was sipping coffee in his cabin when Amy Patterson's urgent voice rang over comms. Captain Morrison, emergency alert from station control. Unidentified ships inbound. Hostile profile. Jake sprinted to the observation deck where 3 sleek forms cut through the void. Their hulls bore the stripped, weapon-bristling look of predators built for speed and carnage. Status of the Defiant? Jake demanded as crew hurried to his side. All systems ready, Amy confirmed. We can launch immediately. The station's defense chief, a pompous Zthari named Click, appeared on the monitor, his mandibles twisted in disdain. Human vessel, you are ordered to remain docked. Confederation security will address this matter following proper procedure. "And where are these security forces?" Jake asked, though the answer was obvious. "They have been informed and dispatched. Arrival in 6 hours." Jake's crew exchanged grim looks. The raiders would strike in 30 minutes, and the station's token defenses were ceremonial at best. "Amy, open a channel to the hostiles." "Channel live, Captain." Jake inhaled, steadying his voice. "Unidentified ships. This is Captain Morrison of the human vessel Defiant. You are approaching a civilian station with families aboard. State your intentions immediately." The reply came with mocking laughter that crawled across Jake's skin. "Humans," sneered a voice. "This is Captain Rex Vaughn of the Bloodwing Pirates. We've no interest in your pitiful enclave. Stay aside, and perhaps we'll leave you scraps once we finish stripping this station." Jake's jaw tightened as anger flared within him, in his chest. These raiders thought they could terrorize civilians and expect humans to stand aside. They were about to learn just how mistaken they were. "Battle stations," Jake ordered sharply. "The Defiant is going to war." The bridge came alive with coordinated urgency, drilled into them for months. Pete Davis slid into engineering control. Lisa Carter armed the weapons, disguised mining tools, and Amy Patterson handled sensors and comms. "Sir, station control insists we stand down until reinforcements arrive," Amy warned. "Tell them they can lodge complaints after we've saved their lives. Dan, take us clear." The Defiant eased away from the docks with flawless precision that astonished every observer. The human ship maneuvered unlike anything in Confederation records. Violent thrusts, rapid turns, catching the pirates completely unprepared. "Enemy! Fire incoming!" Amy called as lances struck. The blasts hammered Defiant's improvised armor, meant to cleave through primitive hull work. Instead, scavenged Zthari battle plating drank in the energy with hardly visible effect. "Their guns! Can't crack us," Lisa declared, pride dripping. "Now we'll show them real weapons. Target the leader with our mining lasers." The linked array unleashed in combat for the first time, 6 searing beams converging on the raiders' engines. Gear meant for pulverizing asteroids shredded shields and ripped through hull like thin foil. Direct hit. Their drive core is unstable. The pirate flagship erupted, fire and debris lighting the void. The last 2 ships suddenly faced a foe unlike any they'd imagined. "Impossible," Rex Vaughn's voice snapped through comms, panic evident. "Humans don't possess warships." "Correct," Jake answered, calm as stone. "This is an industrial support vessel." The clash that followed would be retold in taverns across the stars. The Defiant fought with methods defying all logic. Mining gear turned to weapons, patchwork armor swallowing fire no Navy thought survivable. It prowled space like a predator. Its crew employed tactics no academy ever devised, for none had ever conceived such a fight. Instead of retreating, they drove close, exploiting heavy armor at brutal range. Lisa's beams sliced hulls apart, while Dan hurled asteroid debris with cargo arms at terrifying speed. The pirates' advanced arsenals failed utterly. "Second, ship breaking up," Amy reported. "Third is fleeing." "Not today," Jake vowed. "Engines only." The last raider clawed for jump range, but Defiant's hybrid drive accelerated like the galaxy's swiftest hunters. It ran them down, crippling engines with surgical bursts. "This is Captain Morrison to the surviving vessel. Surrender or be destroyed." "We surrender. Please, spare us." When Confederation security forces finally arrived 6 hours later, they discovered 3 pirate ships either destroyed or disabled, and the Defiant calmly moored at Station Omega as though nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. The human crew was already back to maintenance checks and paperwork, treating victory in a 3-on-1 engagement like routine business. The galaxy would never perceive humans the same again. Reports of the clash raced through Confederation, channels faster than Jake Morrison believed possible. Within a fortnight, envoys from dozens of species were petitioning for audiences with the humans. Some came to issue complaints over human militarization, while others sought insight into their engineering practices. The Stari ambassador, a tall insectoid named Clickar, confronted Jake in Omega's diplomatic chamber. His glittering eyes reflected indignation as his translator rendered the words. Captain Morrison, the Council is gravely disturbed by human weapons activity. Your species was explicitly barred from developing military assets. Jake held his face composed, voice even. We have produced no weapons, Ambassador. The Defiant carries only mining and industrial systems, legally obtained through approved Confederation surplus. Your mining gear dismantled 3 warships in minutes. Jake shrugged as though unimpressed. Perhaps the pirates should have spent more on hull integrity than on intimidation. Clickar's mandibles twitched. He had anticipated remorse, not indifference. Meanwhile, Lisa Carter and Pete Davis were analyzing wreckage, and their conclusions unsettled alien engineers. The ship's lethality arose not from exotic science, but from clever use of discarded older designs. Power efficiency alone proved remarkable, Lisa explained to technical observers. Employing multiple fusion cores rather than single antimatter plants yields greater dependability with higher sustained output. A Luxari engineer, crystalline body glittering, voiced the consensus. Your systems are crude and wasteful. Antimatter. Drives are vastly superior. Superior, perhaps, Pete replied calmly. But when containment fails? Impossible. Our safeguards are flawless. Nothing is flawless. If a fusion core malfunctions, we shut it down and continue with the others. If your antimatter vessel fails, your crew has half a minute before annihilation. The contrast captured the essence of human design, redundancy and repair over unattainable perfection. Pirate strikes across the sector dwindled nearly to none. Rumors spread that humans had fielded a vessel deadlier than official navies and would wield it without hesitation against predators. Captain Slicksara of the Confederation Navy soon requested a discreet audience with Jake in a sealed conference chamber, far from other envoys. The aquatic officer's respirator gurgled rhythmically as her translator converted her words into standard galactic language. Captain Morrison, I must ask you directly, how many additional vessels like the Defiant does humanity currently field today? Just one. And how many could your people produce if given enough resources and time? Jake weighed his words carefully. The supplies the Confederation had been offloading on humanity for the last 3 years could likely support construction of several more ships, but raw materials were not the true obstacle. The real limitation was how many trained crews humanity could provide. As many as required, Captain. The Nile officer's wide eyes regarded Jake with evident intelligence. The Confederation Council is debating whether to limit human access to surplus supplies. Some influential members now argue humanity has become too destabilizing to the established order. Destabilizing for whom? We have only defended ourselves and safeguarded civilian facilities from pirate aggression. That is precisely what troubles certain council delegates. You have revealed that obsolete equipment can be rendered extremely effective through unconventional tactics. This undermines the assumptions of technological supremacy on which our political hierarchy is founded. Jake began to see the core dilemma facing humanity. The Confederation's entire social order rested on advancing technology. Civilizations, with newer systems ranked higher, received greater privileges and exercised superior political power. Humanity's success with discarded machinery threatened that structure outright. Captain Slick Sarah, are you presenting official Confederation policy or private opinion? This discussion is entirely unofficial. Some within the military are very interested in human engineering practices. Not everyone believes newer designs are inherently superior to older frameworks. Then, Captain leaned closer, lowering his voice. Between us, Captain, multiple species have been quietly reviewing your combat recordings. Your tactical approaches were absent from any of our war archives. Different does not always mean better, Jake replied smoothly. No, but effective carries its own meaning. Your vessel overcame 3 opponents simultaneously using assets our experts had labeled obsolete scrap. Such results cannot be dismissed by serious strategists. The meeting closed with an informal understanding. Progressive officers within the Confederation Armed Forces would discreetly support human development, even as the Council quarreled over humanity's position in the interstellar order. In the weeks that followed, Jake observed subtle shifts in how other species engaged with humans on the station. Where once they had been dismissive or arrogant, now a quiet note of caution and respect appeared. Alien engineers posed questions about human fabrication methods. Military staff requested access to combat reports. Even traders began approaching humans with commercial offers. Amy Patterson had been scanning transmissions and reported a curious trend. Captain, we're receiving messages from outlying colonies asking whether human ships might be hired for protective service. Protection from what? Raiders mostly, though some requests concern territorial clashes with hostile neighbors. Word is, spreading that human warships outperform Confederation patrol craft. Lisa lifted her gaze from technical notes, expression thoughtful. Jake, I think we may have unintentionally started something far larger. Other species are beginning to question whether the Confederation's doctrine of technology and defense is actually sound. Pete smirked from his engineering console. Sometimes the best way to change everything is to disprove everyone's assumptions. We just did that with one patched-together mining vessel. Their talk was cut off by an urgent alert from Confederation High Command. The transmission was short yet grim. Unknown hostile forces had attacked outer colonies with weaponry built to counter-standard Confederation arsenals. Initial clashes ended disastrously for the established order. The galaxy was about to realize that humans, with their unconventional style, might be exactly what was needed to confront this new, unforeseen menace. The crisis erupted when the hegemony of Quarks, a militant coalition from outside Confederation space, struck outer settlements in a surprise offensive. Within 4 months, the core worlds would fall unless a decisive military victory was secured. The debate that followed exposed just how reliant the Confederation had become on their advanced systems. Every race had modeled their militaries around identical doctrines, employing variations of the same beam weapons, shield grids, and strategic patterns. The hegemony had dissected those tactics for decades, designing their armada precisely to counter them. Admiral Zector of the Zdari fleet stood before the council, his compound eyes shimmering with both defeat and disbelief. Honored delegates, we have lost 23 warships across 5 separate engagements. The enemy appears to predict our every maneuver. Our most advanced arsenals cannot pierce their adaptive defenses, and our own shields collapse under their bombardments. A junior envoy from a lesser world hesitated, then spoke a suggestion that made several senior delegates shift uneasily. What about the humans? Their vessel demonstrated remarkable effectiveness against outlaw fleets. Outrage exploded instantly among the dominant powers. The Luxari envoy's crystalline body flared with harsh colors. You propose we rely on primitives wielding technology abandoned centuries ago? Their craft triumphed over disorganized raiders, not a disciplined enemy. The younger representative, however, pressed with unexpected resolve. Yet their unorthodox methods worked where ours have failed. Jake had been following the session while reviewing tactical logs from the recent defeats. Rising, he requested leave to address the chamber, a privilege technically granted to all species, but rarely invoked by humanity. Esteemed delegates, your opponent has indeed engineered its fleet to neutralize your cutting-edge systems. Yet they share the same false belief many of you hold, that outdated designs are inherently useless. They have not accounted for what you discarded. Zector's gaze fixed on him with cold skepticism. You claim your primitive vessel could prevail where our finest squadrons fell? I believe our tactics might offer angles your enemy has not anticipated, Jake replied. The hegemony studied your modern weapons obsessively, but dismissed older technologies as irrelevant. The chamber erupted into fierce arguments, some willing to grant humanity a chance, others decrying reliance on antiquated arsenals as suicide. Hours passed until Captain Slakara offered a compromise. Deploy the human ship on a reconnaissance strike. If their unorthodox approach reveals valuable intelligence, we will reconsider. If they fail, the loss of one vessel is preferable to a battle group. By the slimmest of margins, desperation overruled doubt, and the measure passed. 3 weeks later, the Defiant sailed with a Confederation task force bound for the contested Kepler system, where the hegemony had entrenched a forward base. Jake's vessel was relegated to the rear echelon with explicit orders to observe only. Human craft, Admiral Zector transmitted as hostile signatures appeared on long-range scans. You will remain in the support tier. When our fleets engage, your duty is to collect data and transmit findings. Under no circumstance are you to fire without direct clearance. The battle unfolded almost identically to the previous disasters. Confederation warships unleashed their most advanced arsenals against hegemony shields, which were engineered precisely to absorb and neutralize that kind of energy. The counterstrike ripped through Confederation defenses, built on outdated assumptions of standard beam warfare. Within 10 minutes, 3 vessels were crippled, and the rest were already falling back under relentless firepower their barriers could not resist. From the sensor station, Captain Amy Patterson reported, Admiral Zector is calling a general retreat. All units are disengaging. Jake studied the tactical grid, reviewing weapon signatures and movement vectors. The hegemony ships were formidable, but their entire doctrine revolved around defeating one opponent, Confederation design. That focus made them devastating in one context, yet vulnerable in another. Amy, open a channel to the flagship. Admiral Zector, this is Captain Morrison requesting permission to engage. Absolutely not, human vessel. Withdraw at once. Admiral, retreat does not solve the core problem. I believe we can offer a solution. You cannot hope to succeed where our full fleet has failed, Jake answered calmly. We are not your fleet, Admiral. We are something the enemy has never faced. Without waiting for authorization, Jake made his choice. All stations, attack formation. Let's show them what human ingenuity can do. The Defiant surged forward with the same aggressive maneuvers that had baffled pirates months earlier. The hegemony formation, expecting routine Confederation tactics, instead faced strategies absent from any database. The human ship's mining lasers fired, not at warships, but at the dense asteroid belt. Blinding beams vaporized massive rocks, releasing an expanding storm of molten debris. What are the humans doing? A confused enemy captain transmitted. The answer came when the Defiant's cargo manipulators hurled those incandescent fragments at staggering velocities. Hegemony shields were optimized for particle and energy attacks, not hyper-accelerated solid matter. The first cruiser was shredded, as asteroid shards punched through cutting-edge shielding like paper. A second ship tried to recalibrate its defenses, but every adjustment failed against tactics outside its predictive models. The Defiant cut through their formation like a predator among startled prey, wielding weapons the enemy could not categorize and maneuvers no computer could forecast. By battle's end, 6 hegemony vessels lay destroyed or crippled, and their once invincible fleet scattered in chaos. As Jake's crew celebrated their impossible triumph, Admiral Zector's voice came through. Captain Morrison, the Council demands immediate negotiations regarding humanity's role in galactic strategy. Jake looked from the stars to his engineers, who had turned discarded relics into salvation. Tell the Council we're ready to talk, Admiral, but we're keeping our ship.